Late 2023 was shaping up to be a year no one would forget. People were already talking about rising gas prices, weird weather patterns, and the usual mix of scandals in Washington, D.C. But then something happened that took everyone by surprise. Rumors started swirling around former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. At first, it seemed like just another round of gossip. People loved speculating about her even years after she left office. But this time, it felt different. The buzz reached a fever pitch when federal authorities dropped a bombshell announcement. They were reopening an old investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server during her time as Secretary of State. If you didn't follow politics closely back then, here's what happened. While serving in government, Clinton used a personal email account instead of official channels for communication. Critics argued that sensitive information might have been mishandled, though previous inquiries didn't lead to charges. For most people, it was ancient history, or so they thought. This new investigation wasn't just a repeat of old news. It came with fresh evidence. A whistleblower had stepped forward claiming there was more to the story than anyone realized. According to them, classified documents tied to national security could have been compromised on a much larger scale than previously known. This revelation sent shockwaves through political circles and beyond. Suddenly, everyone wanted answers. And then came the twist no one saw coming. Billionaire Elon Musk, the guy behind Tesla and SpaceX, jumped into the fray. Known for his bold moves and unpredictable tweets, Musk posted a cryptic message online hinting at justice delayed but not denied. His words sparked endless debates. Was he trying to stir the pot? Did he know something others didn't? Whatever his intentions, his involvement added fuel to the fire. As subpoenas flew and investigators dug deeper, details began trickling out. Musk, it turned out, wasn't just making noise for attention. Sources close to the case revealed that his aerospace company, SpaceX, had stumbled upon some explosive information. During routine satellite testing, their systems picked up encrypted communications between Clinton's team and foreign entities. These messages weren't supposed to exist, let alone be intercepted. And if reports were true, they contained highly sensitive material that raised serious questions about potential breaches of national security. Musk didn't waste any time addressing the situation. In a press conference streamed live across platforms, he explained why he decided to share what he knew. "Look, I'm not doing this because I have a personal vendetta," he said, leaning slightly forward as cameras captured every word. "I'm doing it because I believe in transparency. When you see something wrong, staying silent isn't an option." His comments divided the public. Some called him a hero, applauding his courage to step forward despite potential backlash. Others accused him of grandstanding, suggesting he was using the controversy to boost his profile or settle scores. Either way, Musk's role in the investigation became impossible to ignore. Hillary Clinton, meanwhile, wasn't taking the accusations lying down. She released a fiery statement denying all allegations and accusing Musk of orchestrating a smear campaign. Her tone was firm, almost defiant. "This is nothing more than a politically motivated witch hunt," she declared. "The facts will prove my innocence, and those responsible for fabricating these lies will be held accountable." Her supporters rallied behind her, organizing protests and flooding social media with hashtags defending her integrity. Opponents, however, seized the moment to demand accountability. The divide grew wider with each passing day, turning the investigation into a battleground for public opinion. Tensions escalated further as prosecutors prepared to present their findings. Subpoenas piled up, targeting key figures linked to Clinton's inner circle. Documents were seized, witnesses interviewed, and timelines reconstructed. Every piece of evidence brought us closer to understanding whether the allegations held water, or if they were baseless claims designed to tarnish a prominent figure's reputation. For many Americans, watching the drama unfold felt surreal. Conversations at dinner tables, coffee shops, and workplaces revolved around one question: what really happened? Was this a legitimate effort to uncover wrongdoing, or was it a calculated attack meant to exploit vulnerabilities in the system? No one had clear answers yet, but everyone had opinions. As the nation waited anxiously for updates, the stakes couldn't have been higher. For Hillary Clinton, this wasn't just about clearing her name, it was about preserving her legacy. For Elon Musk, it was about proving his commitment to transparency while navigating uncharted waters. And for the rest of us, it was a reminder that truth can be messy, complicated, and deeply divisive. Little did anyone know, this was only the beginning. The investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server scandal was heating up, and just when people thought they'd seen everything, a bombshell dropped. It wasn't just any ordinary twist. It was the kind of revelation that made headlines around the world. At the center of it all, none other than Elon Musk. It turned out that SpaceX, Musk's aerospace company, had inadvertently intercepted encrypted communications during routine satellite testing. These weren't random messages. They were tied to Hillary Clinton's team and involved foreign entities. The data suggested that classified information may have been mishandled in ways far more serious than anyone had imagined. This wasn't just speculation anymore. There was tangible evidence on the table. Musk didn't sit quietly after discovering this. Instead, he decided to share what he knew with federal investigators. His decision sent shockwaves through the political landscape. Critics immediately accused him of overstepping boundaries and meddling in matters that didn't concern him. Supporters, however, hailed his actions as courageous. They argued that if someone had access to critical information that could impact national security, staying silent would be irresponsible. To explain himself, Musk held a press conference streamed live to millions. Standing in front of a sleek backdrop adorned with SpaceX logos, he spoke directly to the public. "This isn't about politics," he said, his tone calm but firm. "It's about doing the right thing. When I saw the potential risks here, I couldn't turn a blind eye. Transparency is important, not just for governments but for everyone." His words resonated with some, but not everyone bought it. Skeptics pointed out that Musk had clashed with Democratic leaders in the past and questioned whether his motives were purely altruistic. Was he genuinely concerned about national security, or was this another example of his knack for grabbing attention? The debate raged on social media, news outlets, and dinner tables across America. Hillary Clinton, unsurprisingly, hit back hard. She released a statement calling the allegations baseless and accusing Musk of orchestrating a smear campaign. "This so-called evidence is nothing more than a desperate attempt to tarnish my reputation," she declared. Her legal team echoed her sentiments, arguing that the intercepted communications lacked context and authenticity. They insisted that the investigation was politically motivated and aimed at discrediting her once and for all. But Musk wasn't backing down. During the press conference, he revealed even more details, carefully walking the line between transparency and caution. He explained how SpaceX's satellite technology unintentionally picked up the encrypted messages while conducting tests, designed to improve global connectivity. According to Musk, the data raised red flags almost immediately. After consulting with experts, he concluded that sharing it with authorities was the only responsible course of action. As the story unfolded, reactions poured in from all sides. Some praised Musk for prioritizing accountability over personal gain. Others slammed him for inserting himself into a highly sensitive matter. Political analysts weighed in too, debating whether his involvement set a dangerous precedent. Should private companies play a role in exposing alleged wrongdoing, or was this territory best left to government agencies? Meanwhile, the public remained divided. Supporters of Clinton rallied behind her, organizing protests and flooding social media with hashtags defending her integrity. Opponents seized the opportunity to demand answers, arguing that no one, even a former Secretary of State, should be above scrutiny. The controversy dominated conversations everywhere, from office break rooms to family gatherings. Behind the scenes, prosecutors worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle. Musk's evidence became a key part of their case, providing a glimpse into areas previously shrouded in secrecy. Legal experts noted that while the intercepted communications added weight to the investigation, proving intent would still be challenging. Mishandling classified information wasn't necessarily illegal, unless it could be shown that negligence or deliberate misconduct occurred. For Hillary Clinton, the pressure mounted. She faced relentless questions from reporters and mounting criticism from opponents. Every interview she gave, every statement she issued was dissected for hidden meanings or contradictions. Despite the chaos, she maintained her composure, vowing to fight the allegations tooth and nail. Her supporters admired her resilience, seeing her as a symbol of strength in the face of adversity. As days turned into weeks, the nation braced itself for what came next. Would Musk's revelations hold up under scrutiny? Could Clinton clear her name once and for all? Or would this saga drag on indefinitely, leaving everyone more confused than ever? Amid the uncertainty, one thing was clear. The stakes had never been higher. For Clinton, this wasn't just about avoiding legal trouble. It was about preserving her legacy and proving her critics wrong. For Musk, it was about navigating uncharted waters while balancing ideals with reality. And for the rest of us, it was a stark reminder of how fragile trust can be in an era defined by division and doubt. Little did anyone know, the drama was far from over. What started as a reopened investigation had spiraled into something much bigger, a battle for truth, accountability, and the soul of American democracy. The courtroom was packed to the brim on the first day of the trial. People had been waiting for hours just to get a seat, and even then, many were turned away because there wasn't enough space. Reporters with cameras and microphones lined the hallways outside, ready to capture every detail. The air inside was thick with anticipation. This wasn't just another legal proceeding, it felt like history in the making. Judge Emily Carter walked into the room with an aura of authority. She was known for being tough but fair, and everyone knew she wouldn't tolerate any nonsense. Her stern expression said it all. This case was serious business. As she took her seat, the murmurs in the room died down, replaced by an almost eerie silence. Everyone leaned forward, eager to hear what would happen next. Elon Musk was one of the first witnesses called to testify. He stepped up to the stand looking calm and composed, dressed in his usual simple attire, jeans and a plain black jacket. But as soon as he started speaking, you could tell this wasn't going to be your average testimony. Musk explained how SpaceX's satellite technology had intercepted encrypted communications tied to Hillary Clinton's team. He spoke slowly and deliberately, making sure his words landed clearly. "I didn't do this to cause trouble," Musk said, glancing at the jury before continuing. "I did it because I believe transparency matters. If something looks wrong, staying silent isn't an option." His voice carried conviction, but not everyone was convinced. Some people nodded, along while others exchanged skeptical looks. You could practically see the wheels turning in their heads as they tried to decide whether he was telling the truth or spinning a story. When it came time for cross-examination, things got intense. Clinton's lawyers grilled Musk, firing question after question at him. They wanted to know why he hadn't reported the intercepts sooner, why he chose to go public instead of handing everything over quietly, and whether he stood to gain anything personally from exposing these details. Musk answered each query calmly, though occasionally his frustration showed through. At one point, he leaned closer to the microphone and said firmly, "This isn't about me. It's about doing what's right." But the real shocker came later, in the trial. Just when it seemed like things couldn't get more dramatic, Musk pulled out a document that no one had seen before. It was an internal memo allegedly written by Hillary Clinton herself. According to Musk, the memo acknowledged lapses in protocol related to handling classified information. Gasps rippled through the courtroom as the document was passed around. Even Judge Carter raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard. Clinton's legal team immediately objected, arguing that the memo was fake and planted to discredit their client. "This is outrageous," one of her lawyers shouted, slamming his hand on the table for emphasis. "There's no proof this document is authentic. It's nothing more than a desperate attempt to sway the jury." The tension in the room was palpable as both sides argued fiercely over whether the memo should be allowed as evidence. Judge Carter listened carefully, weighing the arguments from both sides. Finally, she announced that court would recess temporarily so she could review the document herself. This decision sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Was this new evidence going to change everything? Or was it just another distraction in a trial already filled with twists and turns? While the judge deliberated behind closed doors, chaos erupted outside the courthouse. Protesters gathered, holding signs and chanting slogans. Some supported Clinton, insisting she was innocent and being railroaded by powerful forces. Others demanded accountability, claiming the investigation proved that no one was above the law. News crews scrambled to interview anyone willing to talk, capturing raw emotions on camera. Back inside, the mood was tense. Lawyers huddled together, whispering urgently. Spectators whispered among themselves, speculating about what might happen next. Would Judge Carter rule the memo admissible? If so, how would it impact the case? And if not, would the prosecution have enough to keep pushing forward? When Judge Carter finally returned, the entire room fell silent again. She delivered her verdict with measured tones, explaining her reasoning step by step. In the end, she ruled the memo admissible, citing its potential relevance to the charges. The prosecution team let out a collective sigh of relief, while Clinton's lawyers exchanged worried glances. For better or worse, the trial now had a whole new layer of complexity. As the day wrapped up, reporters rushed to file their stories, eager to break the latest developments. Social media lit up with reactions, ranging from outrage to disbelief. People debated endlessly, dissecting every word spoken in court and analyzing every move made by both sides. It was clear that this trial wasn't just about Hillary Clinton anymore. It had become a symbol of larger issues like trust, transparency, and accountability. For Clinton, the stakes couldn't have been higher. She left the courtroom with her head held high, surrounded by her legal team. Despite the setbacks, she remained defiant, vowing to fight until the very end. Her supporters admired her resilience, seeing her as someone willing to stand up against powerful adversaries. Critics, however, saw arrogance, a refusal to admit fault even when faced with mounting evidence. Meanwhile, Elon Musk found himself at the center of renewed scrutiny. Supporters praised him for standing firm despite backlash, while detractors accused him of grandstanding and meddling in affairs beyond his expertise. Whatever his intentions, there was no denying that his actions had reshaped the narrative of the trial, and possibly the future of American politics. By the time the sun set on that chaotic day, one thing was certain. This trial wasn't just about guilt or innocence. It was about power, perception, and the lengths people will go to protect or expose the truth. And as the world waited anxiously for what came next, it was impossible not to wonder where this roller coaster of a story would lead. The courtroom drama had reached a boiling point, and tensions were running higher than ever. Every day brought new twists, turning the trial into something that felt more like a blockbuster movie than a legal proceeding. People couldn't stop talking about it. Whether they supported Hillary Clinton or thought she deserved to be held accountable, everyone had an opinion. And as the days dragged on, the pressure mounted for both sides. Judge Emily Carter's decision to admit Elon Musk's surprise memo as evidence sent shockwaves through the case. It wasn't just another piece of paper. It was a potential game changer. The prosecution wasted no time using it to their advantage, presenting it front and center during closing arguments. They argued that the memo proved Clinton knew about lapses in protocol but chose to downplay them instead of addressing the issue head-on. For the jury, this was a lot to process. Was it genuine? Was it fabricated? Or was it taken out of context? These questions hung heavy in the air. Clinton's defense team fought back fiercely, doing everything they could to cast doubt on the memo's authenticity. They called in experts to analyze its digital footprint, questioned how Musk obtained it, and argued that even if it was real, it didn't prove criminal intent. This so-called smoking gun is nothing more than a distraction, one of her lawyers declared, slamming his fist on the table for emphasis. It doesn't prove negligence or wrongdoing. It proves desperation from the other side. But the prosecution wasn't backing down either. They painted Clinton as someone who prioritized convenience over caution, putting national security at risk. They reminded the jury of the intercepted communications revealed earlier by Musk, tying those messages back to the allegations. Each argument felt like a punch thrown in a boxing match, with neither side willing to give ground. Outside the courtroom, the public reaction mirrored the chaos inside. Protesters gathered daily, some chanting slogans supporting Clinton, others demanding accountability. Social media buzzed nonstop with hashtags like Dowry Justice for All and Dowry Truth Matters, each side trying to sway opinions online. News outlets aired endless debates featuring analysts breaking down every detail of the case. It seemed like the entire country was holding its breath, waiting to see how this would all play out. As the trial moved closer to its conclusion, the atmosphere grew heavier. Lawyers worked late into the night preparing final statements, knowing these would be their last chance to sway the jury. When the day finally came for closing arguments, the courtroom was packed once again. Reporters jostled for position, cameras clicked incessantly, and the tension in the room was almost unbearable. The prosecution went first, delivering a fiery speech designed to drive home their key points. They emphasized the seriousness of mishandling classified information, reminding the jury of the potential consequences for national security. This isn't just about rules being broken, it's about trust being betrayed, the lead prosecutor said, pacing slowly in front of the jury box. When you hold public office, you have a responsibility to protect sensitive information, not expose it to unnecessary risks. Then it was Clinton's defense team's turn. Their strategy was clear: humanize their client and highlight the lack of concrete evidence against her. One lawyer stood up and spoke directly to the jury, his tone calm but passionate. "You've heard a lot of theories, a lot of speculation, but where's the proof?" he asked, spreading his arms wide. "My client has spent decades serving this country, working tirelessly to make it safer and stronger. Does that sound like someone who would deliberately endanger national security?" He paused for effect, letting his words sink in before continuing. "At the end of the day, this case isn't about facts, it's about fear. Fear of powerful women, fear of change, fear of holding people accountable when they come forward with new ideas. Don't let fear dictate your decision." By the time both sides finished, the courtroom felt drained. The judge instructed the jury carefully, explaining the charges and reminding them of their duty to remain impartial. Then, with a final gavel strike, she dismissed them to begin deliberations. As the jurors filed out of the room, the weight of the task ahead seemed to hang visibly on their shoulders. Back outside, the wait began. Hours turned into days as the jury debated behind closed doors. Reporters camped out near the courthouse, speculating endlessly about what might happen next. Supporters of Clinton prayed for vindication, while opponents hoped for justice. Everyone wanted answers, but patience was wearing thin. During this time, Elon Musk found himself under intense scrutiny yet again. Some praised him for standing firm despite backlash, calling him a champion of transparency. Others accused him of overstepping boundaries, questioning whether his involvement had done more harm than good. Musk kept a relatively low profile, posting only occasional updates on social media, but his presence loomed large over the trial, a reminder of how deeply intertwined technology, politics, and power had become. Inside the jury room, discussions were heated. Some jurors leaned toward conviction, convinced by the prosecution's arguments and the controversial memo. Others weren't so sure, pointing out gaps in the evidence and raising doubts about the memo's legitimacy. Tempers flared, voices rose, and compromises were hard to come by. It was clear that reaching a unanimous verdict wouldn't be easy. Meanwhile, Clinton herself stayed focused, spending quiet moments with her family and legal team. Publicly, she remained composed, giving interviews where she reiterated her innocence and criticized the trial as politically motivated. Privately, though, those close to her said she was exhausted, but determined not to give up. As the nation waited anxiously for the jury's decision, the trial became more than just a legal battle. It symbolized deeper divides in society, between truth and perception, accountability and ambition, fairness and bias. Whatever the outcome, It was bound to leave a lasting impact. Finally, after weeks of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Word spread quickly, drawing massive crowds to the courthouse. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and protesters held their signs high. Inside, the courtroom was eerily silent as Judge Carter took her seat and prepared to deliver the news. No one knew what to expect. Would the jury side with the prosecution, handing down a guilty verdict? Or would they acquit Clinton, clearing her name once and for all? As the foreman stood up to announce the decision, the room seemed to freeze in anticipation. This was it, the moment everyone had been waiting for. The courtroom was silent, save for the faint hum of tension hanging in the air. Every eye was fixed on the foreman as he stood up, holding a single piece of paper that would decide the fate of one of America's most polarizing figures. Reporters leaned forward, pens poised, while cameras captured every flicker of emotion on the faces of those present. The moment felt heavy, like history itself was about to be written. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" Judge Emily Carter asked, her voice steady but carrying an undeniable weight. "Yes, Your Honor," the foreman replied, his tone calm but tinged with the seriousness of the task ahead. He unfolded the paper and read aloud. "We, the jury, find the defendant guilty on 2 counts of mishandling classified information." A collective gasp swept through the room. Some people slumped in their seats, visibly shaken, while others exchanged shocked glances. For supporters of Hillary Clinton, it was a devastating blow, one they had hoped wouldn't come true. Her legal team sat stone-faced, their expressions unreadable masks hiding waves of frustration and disbelief. The other side, prosecutors exchanged quiet nods, relief evident in their body language. Clinton herself didn't flinch. She stood tall, her posture unbroken despite the gravity of the verdict. Her eyes scanned the room briefly before she turned to face the judge. There was no outburst, no visible sign of panic, just a quiet resolve etched into her features. When, given the opportunity to speak, she addressed the court directly, her voice firm and unwavering. "I respect the jury's decision, but I do not agree with it," she said, her words deliberate and measured. "This case has been plagued by political motivations from the start, and I will continue to fight for justice. This is not the end. It's only the beginning." Her statement drew murmurs of approval from her supporters and jeers from opponents. Outside the courthouse, the scene was chaos. Protesters who had gathered for weeks erupted into cheers or cries of outrage depending on which side they supported. News vans lined the streets, reporters shouting questions at anyone willing to talk. Social media exploded with reactions, hashtags, trending worldwide as millions weighed in on the outcome. For Clinton, the road ahead was uncertain. Guilty on 2 counts meant potential consequences, fines, probation, even jail time if the judge decided to impose harsh penalties. But beyond the legal ramifications, the verdict carried a deeper sting. After decades of public service, this ruling threatened to overshadow her legacy, painting her as someone who put personal convenience above national security. Supporters argued that the punishment didn't fit the crime, pointing out that similar cases involving other officials had ended differently. Critics, however, saw the verdict as long overdue accountability, proof that no one was above the law. Elon Musk, meanwhile, found himself at the center of renewed controversy. While some hailed him as a hero for bringing critical evidence to light, others accused him of overstepping ethical boundaries. His companies faced backlash too, with boycott campaigns gaining traction online. Musk responded cautiously, posting a series of tweets addressing the situation. "I didn't do this for fame or revenge," he wrote. "I did it because I believe transparency matters. If I stayed silent knowing what I knew, I wouldn't be able to live with myself." Despite his attempts to clarify his intentions, the criticism persisted. Analysts debated whether his actions set a dangerous precedent, raising questions about the role private citizens and corporations should play in exposing alleged wrongdoing. Could this open the door for others to intervene in sensitive matters? Or was it simply a unique situation requiring extraordinary measures? As the dust began to settle, the fallout rippled across the nation. Politically, The verdict reshaped the landscape in ways no one could have predicted. Trust in institutions wavered further, with many questioning how such high-profile cases were handled. Conversations around privacy, corporate responsibility, and government oversight dominated headlines. Some saw the trial as a triumph of justice, a reminder that even powerful figures must answer for their actions. Others viewed it as a cautionary tale, warning of the dangers of unchecked influence and bias. On a personal level, the impact was profound. Clinton retreated from the spotlight, focusing on her family and preparing for the appeals process. Friends and allies rallied around her, offering support and vowing to help clear her name. Public appearances became rare, but when she did speak, her message remained consistent. She believed in her innocence and refused to let the verdict define her. For Musk, life returned to its usual whirlwind of innovation and controversy. Yet, the shadow of the trial lingered. His involvement continued to spark heated debates with opinions divided almost evenly. Some praised him for stepping up when it mattered most, while others dismissed him as reckless and self-serving. Regardless of where people stood, there was no denying that his role in the investigation had left a lasting mark. As weeks turned into months, the story faded from daily news cycles, replaced by newer scandals and controversies. But its effects endured. The trial had exposed fault lines in American society, highlighting deep divisions over issues like trust, accountability, and the balance of power. It also raised uncomfortable questions about the intersection of technology and governance, a topic that would remain relevant for years to come. In quieter moments, people reflected on what the verdict meant, not just for Clinton or Musk, but for the country as a whole. Was this a step toward greater transparency and fairness? Or was it a sign of growing instability, where truth and perception blurred together until it was hard to tell them apart? For now, answers remained elusive. The appeals process loomed on the horizon, promising more twists and turns in an already dramatic saga. Meanwhile, the nation watched and waited, unsure of what the future held, but certain that the lessons learned from this chapter would shape the way we think about justice, leadership, and integrity for generations to come. The aftermath of the trial wasn't just a legal story, it was a human one. Lives were changed, careers were reshaped, and the nation found itself grappling with deeper questions about justice, fairness, and the cost of transparency. As weeks turned into months, the fallout from the verdict continued to ripple through every corner of society. Hilary Clinton stepped back from public life in the wake of the guilty verdict. For someone who had spent decades in the spotlight, fighting battles, making speeches, and shaping policies, this retreat felt both necessary and painful. She returned to her home in Chappaqua, New York, seeking solace among family and close friends. Public appearances became rare, but when she did speak, her tone carried a mix of defiance and reflection. In interviews, she spoke candidly about the toll the trial had taken on her personally and emotionally. "This has been one of the hardest chapters of my life," she admitted, during a sit-down with a trusted journalist. "But I've faced challenges before, and I'll face this one too." Her supporters rallied around her, organizing fundraisers to cover legal fees and launching campaigns to restore her reputation. They argued that the trial was less about evidence and more about perception, a politically motivated effort to tarnish her legacy once and for all. Online petitions calling for leniency in sentencing gained traction, while hashtags like "Stand with her" trended repeatedly. Critics, however, remained unconvinced. To them, the verdict confirmed what they'd suspected all along, that even powerful figures must answer for their actions if they cross ethical lines. Meanwhile, Elon Musk faced his own reckoning. His involvement in the case made him a polarizing figure, loved by some and loathed by others. Supporters hailed him as a modern-day whistleblower, someone willing to risk backlash for the sake of truth and accountability. Detractors accused him of grandstanding, suggesting that his actions stemmed from personal vendettas rather than genuine concern for national security. The debate raged on social media, news outlets, and dinner tables across America. Musk tried to navigate the storm, with characteristic boldness. He gave interviews defending his decision to share the intercepted communications, insisting that staying silent would have been irresponsible. "People can say what they want about me," he told a prominent talk show host. "But at the end of the day, I believe in doing the right thing, even when it's hard." Despite his efforts to clarify his intentions, criticism persisted. Some companies began distancing themselves from SpaceX and Tesla, citing concerns over Musk's unpredictable behavior. Others launched boycott campaigns, urging consumers to rethink their loyalty to his brands. Amid the chaos, Musk doubled down on innovation, channeling his energy into ambitious projects designed to push humanity forward. Whether it was advancing space exploration or revolutionizing transportation, he seemed determined to prove that his focus extended far beyond politics. Still, the shadow of the trial lingered, reminding everyone, including Musk himself, that stepping into the world of high-stakes investigations came with consequences. Politically, the trial left an indelible mark on the nation. Trust in institutions wavered further as people questioned how such cases were handled. Conversations around privacy, corporate responsibility, and government oversight dominated headlines, sparking heated debates in Congress, academic circles, and living rooms alike. Lawmakers introduced new legislation aimed at tightening regulations around classified information, while watchdog groups called for greater transparency in investigations involving private entities like SpaceX. For ordinary citizens, the trial served as a wake-up call. It highlighted the complexities of navigating a world where technology, politics, and power intersected in ways few could have predicted. People began asking tough questions. Who decides what's right or wrong? Should private companies play a role in exposing alleged wrongdoing? And how do we balance accountability with fairness? As the appeals process unfolded, tensions remained high. Clinton's legal team worked tirelessly to overturn the verdict, filing motions and presenting new arguments in hopes of swaying higher courts. Each development brought fresh waves of speculation, keeping the story alive in the public consciousness. Supporters clung to hope, believing that justice would eventually prevail. Opponents dug in their heels, convinced that the original ruling was correct. Through it all, the nation struggled to find common ground. Divisions deepened, reflecting broader societal fractures over issues like trust, accountability, and the role of power. Conversations grew louder, angrier, and more urgent, underscoring the need for meaningful dialogue and reform. In quieter moments, though, there were glimmers of hope. People began recognizing that despite their differences, they shared a desire for fairness and integrity. Community leaders organized town halls and forums to encourage open discussions about the lessons learned from the trial. Teachers incorporated the case into classroom lessons, using it as a springboard to explore themes like ethics, responsibility, and civic duty. Artists created works inspired by the events, capturing the complexity of emotions surrounding the verdict. By the time the appeals court issued its final ruling, upholding the original verdict but reducing the severity of penalties, the landscape had shifted dramatically. The case no longer belonged solely to Hillary Clinton or Elon Musk. It had become part of a larger narrative about the challenges facing modern democracy. Looking back, many saw the trial as a turning point, a moment that forced America to confront uncomfortable truths about itself. It exposed vulnerabilities in systems meant to protect and serve, revealing cracks that needed repair. It also showcased resilience, the determination of individuals and communities to seek justice, demand accountability, and work toward a better future. For Hillary Clinton, the verdict marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Though her career in elected office might be behind her, her influence endured. She emerged from the ordeal with renewed purpose, focusing on advocacy work and mentoring young leaders. Her story reminded people that setbacks don't define you. It's how you respond that matters. Elon Musk, too, moved forward, continuing to shape industries and challenge norms. While his role in the trial remained controversial, it underscored the importance of thoughtful leadership in an era defined by rapid technological advancement. He learned valuable lessons about the weight of responsibility that comes with wielding power. and the scrutiny that follows. Ultimately, the trial wasn't just about guilt or innocence. It was about the messy, complicated nature of truth and the lengths people will go to uncover or defend it. It was about holding powerful figures accountable while acknowledging the gray areas that often blur the lines between right and wrong. Most importantly, it was a reminder that history is shaped not just by events themselves, but by how we choose to respond to them. As the dust settled and life slowly returned to normal, one thing was clear. The story of Hillary Clinton, Elon Musk, and the trial that shocked the nation would be remembered not just for its drama, but for the questions it raised and the conversations it sparked about who we are and who we aspire to be.